That's good. That's actually good. It kind of shows across. Um, so it's definitely has been uh a minute, quite some time. Life has
Yes, it
been
has.
lifing. Yeah, life
It
has been
has.
lifing, and for both of us, and that's just what it is. That's what happens to everybody. Life happens, and so does work because we gotta we gotta pay our bills, so we have to have a job that we
Yeah,
gotta do.
exactly. Yeah, I, I was just gonna say, it's hard to ask the question, are we watching, if we're not watching anything?
That is true too. It is. Um, but in the meantime, since we began, there has been a lot of things that has popped out. Uh, what came out? Hmm, popped out, came out. I'm not sure which one I want to
More,
go with.
I think it's an interesting thing we're doing this as kind of our, coming back, um, because it's been relatively silent, on kind of the stuff that we would normally talk about. There's been a few things here and there, but it's a lot of announcements, kind of like stuff on the horizon. It's like things are changing hands, like studios, and the last 6 months have been crazy in
Yeah,
general. So I think a lot of things have been on the back burner, um, just in general.
true. Well, one thing that is not is more recent. Is not like it's super recent. Is the Superman trailer that came out.
Yeah,
James Gunn's Superman trailer finally came out, and it for me again, not a real big Superman fan, but also I am a DC fan. I liked it. I liked the way that it looked. I like the vibrancy of it. It it
yeah,
it looked good. Everything about
it
it,
really
in
did.
my opinion, looked good.
No,
Uh
I was. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, yeah, yeah.
I had a fever when the trailer dropped. That was another thing that definitely halted,
That
uh,
is right.
any sort of criticism and critique, when you're sick for like 2 months.
Yeah.
But I had a fever when it came out, and I just loved it. And I don't think it was just the fever talking. I think it was just a genuinely good trailer, that showcased exactly what I would want from a Superman movie,
Hmm.
and what I definitely would expect from, like a James Gunn production, a James Gunn joint.
My bad.
Um,
Yeah, it is. And the cool, another thing that I thought where I was happy with the choice, especially seeing the response afterwards was, Guy Gardner looking like a fool. Looks like
a
an idiot. Like
loser, yeah,
yeah, the haircut. And it's very
it's
intentional of what
perfect.
it is. And I started seeing people doing well, Guy Gardner would look, no, Green Lantern would look cooler if it's like looked like this and all that type of stuff. And it's like, one, you guys don't know who Guy Gardner is. And two, that is
It
perfect. That is amazing.
really
This is
is.
what Guy Gardner needs to look like. And,
It really is.
yeah, and even Mr. Terrific looked really good.
Terrific. He
Yeah,
looked
because
terrific.
I also
And
saw
that was,
like,
that's, I can't remember the actor's name, but that's the guy who played Darwin, right? In First Class. So I'm
yes,
so glad for him to get, a second chance to hopefully not disappoint me. It's not his fault that
true,
First
because
Class was so stupid, but yeah.
yeah, because that will always fall to the, I could adapt to anything. All right, adapt to this one thing. And he couldn't adapt. And it's like, that's that man's powers. You guys really just ruined him for that. So,
Imagine getting killed by Kevin Bacon by a marble.
right? God.
Make me so mad. But no, yeah, I'm excited for him, and almost I like the look. I think the casting is really good, and that was my
Yeah.
big, huge criticism with, previous, uh, Zack Snyder Superman universe, his universe
Yeah.
casting choices for the most part, just in general, like one would be good, three would be bad, and that was just kind of the way it
Yes.
is. And with this movie feeling like an ensemble film to some degree with how many people we have, it there's like, all of them really work for me, and that's a good sign. And you would think that at this point we'd be kind of jaded, and I think you and I both kind of are to some degree. Jaded might not be the
Yeah,
right word, but maybe cynical. And when I watched the trailer, I didn't really feel cynicism. Definitely felt more
true. And,
intimate.
I feel this is a perfect moment to mention our friend, uh, Cody, the ever so present cynic of life and hater of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, didn't feel as cynical about it. And it was funny because as much as I enjoyed it, I think Cody said something about it. I was like, way to go, Cody. Way to be you.
what I haven't really heard any sort of any the only criticisms I've really seen from the trailer from people, especially online, because I haven't really talked to anyone in
Yeah.
person about it, but I have all been really haven't really seen any real criticisms.
Yeah. I don't think there's really much, and it's cool because I think that the Zack Snyder fandom, like those and overt and ecstatic, terminally online fans have kind of been relaxed and chilled, which is
It's
good.
true.
Yeah.
No, I mean
Uh,
I think the Zack Snyder fandom is the Zack Snyder fandom dying? We ask. Um,
I don't, maybe.
because I imagine it's got to be hard to be one
Oh,
after
gosh.
the last few years. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But to each their own, I guess.
sure. And then also, what came out was, Creature Commandos. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that.
I still haven't seen it. I want to.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? And this, like I said at the top, that like, as far as like what we're watching, I still haven't seen Penguin. Uh, I, man, I haven't really been in tune with kind of like any of the projects coming out of like, you know, like even like with the Marvel, like with MCU, Disney Plus streaming shows, like the last few that have come out, namely like What If, like season
Yeah.
this, there's the second season, there's three seasons, or is there, yeah, there's three seasons, right?
Yeah. I
I
think
never finished the second season. I watched like the first couple of episodes and that
wait,
was it.
did the third season come out already? Oh, man,
Yeah, it just
I might be
recently came
slacking on that
out.
too. I didn't know that.
And I haven't watched that. I didn't watch Echo when it came out, and like it's like there's just stuff like that where I don't know. And then yeah, with Creature Commandos, I didn't want. Oh, you know what? Sorry, I watched Agatha
Yeah. Yeah.
when it was
Agatha
coming
all
out. That
along.
was really good.
Well, you also have been like almost dying for like the last several months.
Yeah,
So
but
that's very understandable.
it's nice having a nice backlog of stuff to watch for sure.
Very true. Very true. And it's good. I did finish, Creature Commandos. It was pretty good. I'm excited to see what you get to, how you feel about it once you start watching it. But one of the things that was pretty interesting, and I think I had made mention of this last night, uh, was the cast of characters that James Gunn typically picks
Right.
is unique and very
Hmm.
specific too. Unique and very specific. And he does it in such a good way for his storytelling. And then it's not like he doesn't intently pick characters. It's not like he's just, oh, yada, 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 here. I think that's
Yeah.
cool. That's it. He will take a character and use that character.
Yeah.
If they're, yeah, part of the story. So it's funny seeing all the people talk about like, why would you pick GI Robot? And it came out in December. And then now you have all this like, uh,
Very
Nazi shit.
pointed discourse around. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, this is a very big reason. Like, of course, yes, a robot that wants to kill Nazis. This is important.
Honestly,
It,
he's the
it,
main reason that I really wanted to watch that show because I remember I've seen, I've seen like memes and clips of
yeah,
him, and it's been like, oh wow, I really do need to watch the show because I love that.
yeah. It's
But
only 8 episodes.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jane, so in case anyone like doesn't know what we're rambling about, uh, and why we're talking about James Gunn so much is he's obviously what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of put into place to kind of usher in the upcoming projects at
him
the
him and Peter Safran are in charge of DC
right
Studios.
DC
They
Studios.
both, yeah, they both are the co-leaders, co-chair. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to put it. Why am I
Right.
losing my mind right now? But they both are running, is what you're going saying.
Yeah.
They both are
And
taking care of what happened, taking it
yeah.
from what it used to be to now.
And obviously with that, and then like granted, like, you don't always know, and this is what's so interesting about like comic book adaptation, uh, movies and shows, just media in general,
Yeah,
especially the big budget movies, is that like for other studios, we don't know, most people don't know who like the heads of those are. We don't know like kind of like who the executives of like studios usually are.
yeah,
But when it comes to like Marvel with the MCU and with the DC, what I don't know, is it DC Studios? Is that what it's called?
yeah. It's called DC
Okay.
Studios.
Okay.
They like did a whole different thing. Yeah. So yeah,
Like we, obviously everyone that gives who cares what knows who Kevin Feige is, right? You know what I mean? Like if
yeah,
you are a person in the scene, you know the Russo brothers, like we know the directors of these movies.
hmm,
We know obviously like people that are, producers or like I said, executives or like in charge of some sort of production. We're way more in tune to it with these kind of adaptations in these studios. And that's very interesting. Uh, but it does make the writing on the wall a little bit more visible when we see announcements. And granted, also, like comic book adaptations, people that are in that world are also very speculative, right?
right.
And so
Extremely.
we actually care about announcements for like projects and stuff like that. We're ahead of the curve. They make announcements at Comic Con and like at these conventions and like trailer drops and people were breaking them down. It's very like, it's a really, really like in tune community. So
Yeah,
when James Gunn was, kind of picked or, maybe he did it himself. I don't know like who exactly signed the paperwork on this deal, but he's the one who's, basically heading this project over at DC Studios. And anyone that knows, who's in this community knows his name pretty well.
yeah,
And I think that we're all just, what kind of feelings those bring up for you might differ, but at the end of the day, it's star power. You know what I mean? Same thing happened with Zack Snyder because Zack Snyder had a pretty big, obviously has a huge fan base and a big following, and people knew his name. And so when he was going to be directing, so being in charge of like creative
yeah,
tissue of that cinematic universe, and I think that's another thing too is there's a certain auteurship when it comes to these cinematic universes, which isn't something that you see in most franchises either, just because that concept didn't really exist to the scale that it did until Marvel did it.
very true. And it's interesting because it speaks highly to the reason why that was able to last and be the way it was is because of the comic books. Realistically,
Of
that's the only
course,
reason why they're able to create those
of
cinematic
course,
universes, which is funny to say now because it's like all these cinematic universes that everybody wants to have and wants people to see, it all is because of comic books. You guys could thank
yeah,
your comic book writers. Um, but it shows that for everything up into Thanos on the Marvel side, was kind of connected, was pretty good, and it tried
was
to
leading up to something.
tell a through line of something.
Mhm.
Um, it didn't always hit the mark, but for the most point, it was there. You saw where they're going, you saw what it was
Yeah,
going to, and then after Thanos, it's like they don't know what to do. They
yeah,
have no idea about it, and it also brings up like when you put that much into trying to have a through line, it takes a lot, but it's not always. It doesn't need to be necessary as much as they want it to be necessary.
yeah.
Sometimes things
Because
could just happen.
yeah, and that's what we saw with speaking. I hate to keep like punching down on a guy that's not even working for the studio anymore, but like with Zack Snyder's
Yeah.
kind of we call it the Snyderverse, right? And it's like
Yeah.
I think that connective tissue was they were trying to build it up too quick in a short amount of time because they had competitors and they wanted to have, and I'm not saying that was his fault. I'm sure it was a team of executives at the
Yeah, of
studio that
course.
were like, you need to make an MCU and you need to make it soon. And I'm sure
Yeah.
everyone that was a creative in the room was going, awesome, we can totally do that. I don't hate my life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think that, it's hard to do. And I know that like like, as far as like what's looking, for DC in the future, I imagine there's going to be some connective tissue that they're going to work towards, but I think that they're okay with letting these projects be separate, right? Like something even like Matt Reeves
Yeah.
kind of exists within its own universe at least for the time being. And that's really cool.
They really took the comic book approach by having like, they said Matt Reeves stuff is going to be like an Elseworld. So it's
Yeah.
going to live off in its
And
own
that's what DC
universe.
Comics does really well, right? DC
Yeah. Yeah.
Comics has Elseworlds and people love them. They do really well.
Yeah, it takes what you want, and the fact that they're going to still stand by and do their things on the side, but it seems, at least from everything that he's been saying, that he's very cognizant about the overwhelming aspect of trying to make everything super connected. And I
Yeah.
believe he said, has talked about like just making some things are gonna like overall it'll be connected, but there's not gonna be like direct throughputs through everything type of deal.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the things that like sometimes people just exist in this world and
Yeah.
they may happen to run into other, they may not. So there goes your connectivity type of deal. And it's like, that's cool. That's kind of what we want because that's the better way of things happening. Like Spider-Man, what was that? No Way Home? Not just
Mhm.
having like all those other spider characters come back and like
Right.
the Andrew Garfield and, the one I don't like, Tobey Maguire.
Tobey
Uh,
Maguire.
I don't like Spider-Man. That's just me.
Yeah, neither do
Uh,
I. I mean,
yeah,
we've talked about this. We agree with
yeah.
that as
Yeah,
far as like
Andrew Garfield's superior.
Andrew
But
Garfield is superior.
yeah, uh,
I agree
uh,
wholeheartedly.
but the fact that he went and saw Doctor Strange, like they live in the same city. They
Yeah,
live not far from each other and whatnot. So that felt right. It felt one of those things where it didn't feel like it was forced or everybody having to be around, which was kind of cool because other spots, they tend to be like, oh, I'm gonna make a way for these people to be around each other. And then it's
yeah,
not gonna be natural. It's gonna be like super forced.
yeah,
It'll be a stupid plot point to sometimes put characters together. So it's good that he's already, before anything even got off the ground, that he said, hey, this is the deal. This is what's going to be. This is going to feel like this is what we're hoping for. And this is our direction. Because even in,
yeah.
Creature Commandos, outside of like two small scenes, you don't see any other of those other characters being pertaining to the story type of
Okay.
deal. And it's not one of those things. It's like, yeah, Creature Commandos exists in the world of DC. Let's bring in the Justice League right away. Let's bring in some,
Right.
it's like that didn't happen. It was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool. You had like a plot point that made sense for Creature Commandos that may have involved somebody else at a certain point in time, but it doesn't feel forced. It's not one of the things where you take away from it. Like, that's weird. Why did they do that? Type of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is really, it's good to see what the direction that they want to take, and what they're hoping to do. And even the way that they're attacking their shows and movies, because, they just released a still for Supergirl and they started Supergirl, but they also have Tom King helping out with Supergirl, who wrote
Yeah.
Woman of Tomorrow, which is going to be based off of, and they're actually involving like the writers to be a part of these things.
Yeah. And that's always a good thing. Great. Oh, thank God it stopped.
Uh,
Um, one thing that's something that you bring up that's interesting is that when you have comic creators, comic writers attached to these projects, especially in a writing situation, uh, it's usually for the better. Don't quote me on that, okay? But it's one of those things where I'm rewatching Daredevil,
yeah,
and in preparation for the Born Again upcoming, right?
looks
I also just rewatched Daredevil because it's a great show.
it really is
Um,
solid.
I never paid attention to the credits, and Christos Gage is one of the writers on it, and it's like, oh, they had comic writers in the room, okay,
This
and
this
it's
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, it was like, um, I know Zeb Wells was attached to Deadpool and Wolverine,
Yeah,
and uh, there's a lot, and I think that it's a good thing. There'll be stuff for the people that like comics in these adaptations when you put comic writers in the room.
yeah,
It's a good
and
thing,
it and it's
usually.
very important because it's like, okay, you guys are you're adapting from something that's already existed. And the
Yeah,
reason that you're adapting from it is because it's been super popular and people already have a
yeah,
love for it. And that's how it's
hmm
known. And instead of going the route of, uh, oh, this is popular. I know people like it. I'm just going to use the IP and
yeah,
do my own thing and make a complete terrible mess of it. It's great to always have these people who are involved in that and kind of, because obviously you're not going to word for word, scene for scene, panel for panel. You're not going to adapt a comic book like that.
yeah.
Unless
I'd
it's
like to.
Watchmen.
I'd love to see him. I was gonna say I'd love to see him try. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
and
love Watchmen. I think Watchmen's really good. I know that it has its criticisms, but I really like Watchmen.
yeah, it does, but it wasn't. It was. I can't say it's as terrible as I've heard some people say. Yeah, I can't say that about Watchmen. Um, but it shows that yeah, you're gonna adapt it. Use the people who are already in that world. Who one of my favorite movies that I've watched is People, Places, Things with Jermaine Clement. And in it, he
Mhm.
is a comic book writer, but he's also like at his professor.
Okay.
And he ends up, there's like this whole entire like love story, that pops up, but it's him being a comic book writer and he meets this woman who is like a literary writer.
Okay.
And it's funny because they have the moment of like trying to say who's the real writer, who's the real author compared to each other. And he gives like real stuff about like, comic books are real. Like our literature, comic books are
hmm
filled with literature and all this stuff. And it's like comics, some people, when they talk about reading, oh yeah, I read all these books. And then you want to say comic books and they try to look at you like they're better than you. But realistically, comic book writers are fantastic. Comic book artists are fantastic. They have some
Yeah.
great stories. They work cohesively together. Um, and it's really, you're really doing, the people who look down on it are really doing themselves a disservice if they want some great stories. And
Yeah.
if you're one of the people who want to look down on people, but at the same time, like, I watch all the Marvel movies. It's like, you suck. You're, you're a terrible person because guess what? There's some great books that are even better. Like I ran into a kid, at work. We were talking and he's told me he had a Civil War book, but
Uh-huh.
he hasn't read it yet. And
Oh,
Civil War was one of his favorite movies from the Marvel universe. And I told
uh-huh.
him, hey man, the book is good. The book is really
Yeah,
good. I dare say it's, it's better in some aspects on like how they get started and get to the situation. Cause there is a
yeah,
difference, obviously, as you know, we
yeah.
both know there's differences, but the book was really
It's
good. And
apples and oranges, right? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
or
it
maybe
really is.
it's like apples and apple juice. I don't know.
Apples and, barracudas, man. It's crazy. So yeah, it's good to see them in the room. They are real writers. I would also love to see more love for them and more love for comic book artists as well. 'Cause some of these artists are killing it out there. Dexter
Yeah.
Stoy, Jorge Jimenez, Dan
Yeah, oh yeah.
Mora.
Love
They
Dan
are
Moore.
putting, yeah, they are putting the work out and really just utterly the each and every time, like I'm seeing some of their new stuff they put out, especially they put out like some promotional images. I say,
Hmm.
damn, how are you that good? Like they're just so good. I love it so much. Um, but yeah, so that's that. They're starting Women of Tomorrow. It looks pretty good. That's in a good place. But another thing, it's not a new movie. It's more of an older movie that I kind of also wanted to touch on because of the times. And
Hmm.
because we already talked about Creature Commandos, is Jojo Rabbit.
Okay.
Remember Jojo Rabbit?
You know,
Yeah.
I've never seen Jojo Rabbit.
You haven't seen Jojo Rabbit?
I wanted to when it came out,
Yeah.
and I didn't get around to it, and then I just never got around to it. And
So
I've heard nothing but good things.
so one of the interesting things about Jojo Rabbit and why I kind of wanted to bring it up like around now is with all this rise in Nazism in
Hmm.
America and across the world is they took that idea at that time because it's set during World War II. Uh,
Yeah.
and they took the innocence of a child growing up in that and wanted to be a Nazi, wanted to join the SS ranks and whatnot. And it was interesting thinking about it, like they took the so-called innocence of it, of wanting to be, well, one of them was freaking out. They took the innocence of like wanting to be a Nazi and put it on
Yeah.
full display and showed that like there is no positive to this. There's nothing good. It's not an innocent thing. Um,
Exactly.
and it was really thinking about it now. It was really cool to see to have something out there where it's like Elon did a full on Nazi salute and you got people who are trying to dismiss it as something else. They want to say that it was something else or
Yeah.
and give all these other reasons. Or he's just, he's autistic and all this other dumb shit instead of
Hmm.
just calling it what it is. And in that movie, this kid wanted to be something that he thought was great. He even had Hitler as imaginary friend because this was like what his life wanted to be. And it started to show that that was not a good situation and the horrors of it. So it took away the way that people want to make it an innocent thing, a nice thing, you would just let them be type of stuff. And instead of calling it out and showing that it's wrong, it took
Yeah.
that in a movie form with a little child to be like, hey, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not though. There's no excuse,
Yeah.
that for it. And it's just a horrid type of thing. But it was pretty cool. Since you haven't seen it, one of these days, I can't really say much about it because for me, which I know this is going to be, I've had so many people already tell me this, that they wanted me to watch this movie and I have not. and I feel bad about it. And now I'm like, am I waiting to get another TV or am I just a fraud? Uh, it's everything, everywhere, all at
Oh
once.
yeah. Yeah,
I,
that's my movie that I'm
yeah,
so
you've
the
told me.
champion of. Yeah, but I've tried to be I've always tried to be kind of like because because of that movie I loved so much
Yeah,
and like I didn't want to nothing's worse than when you kind of like champion a piece of media because you really liked it and then you start like telling everybody about it and it's not really a movie that I think is for everyone. And
yeah,
so you can you lose sometimes you lose people with that because you're like, this movie's the best movie that came out this year. And then people see it and they're like, I don't know. And you're just like, damn, I shouldn't have hyped it up. So I like
yeah,
explicitly tried not to hype that movie up. And luckily I know a lot of people that saw it and loved it. And it ended up being really successful. Not only just like in like the box office, but also, you know, did a pretty good sweep with awards. And so
yeah.
I was happy for about that because I was like, okay, sometimes you just gotta shut your mouth and just enjoy the media and just let it ride out. And when someone says, hey, I like that movie, you can go, I love that movie. I'm so glad
Yeah.
you're mentioning it.
I, it has everything that I want to see. I really felt like, I remember at the time when I missed out on theaters that I was like, okay, cool. What I'm going to do is, since it's a very visually stunning movie, that
Yeah.
I need to have like the appropriate TV to watch it
Yeah.
because otherwise I'm going to be so upset and not grasp everything. But even though I didn't see it yet, I will watch it. It was also one of the things that I was kind of like champion as well because I really love Michelle Yeoh and,
Yeah.
even and the rest of the cast, it just looked good, everything about it. So it was another one of the things where I'm telling people like, yeah, you should go watch it. It looks really good. Like when it was coming out in theaters
Yeah.
and that's also a weird place to be in to be like telling people
Oh,
and
but
then they go and watch it and they're like, yeah, man, I saw it. So and I'm like, oh, dang, shit. Yeah.
don't say anything. I'm
But you
done.
told me to watch it. Yeah. It's like, ah, my bad.
uh,
So,
I was gonna say I still can't fault you for it because I still haven't seen Dune 2
mm,
for the exact same reason where like I didn't see the first one in theaters. I ended up seeing it when it was on what used to be
yeah,
called HBO Max. Now it's just Max, which is stupid.
I still
But
call it HBO Max.
I still call it HBO Max too. I just wanted to be correct on the record. But yeah, back when it was on streaming essentially, and we watched it. I
Yeah,
really liked it, but I was like, damn, this would have been a movie I would have really preferred to see on a bigger screen.
yeah.
So that's the same reason why I haven't seen the second one yet, because I'm like, I know it's available, but I'm like, it's not
Oh
gonna be the same.
man, it there is like the movie's really good. The second movie's really good, but there's also times when I kind of sit back and I'm just like, "Please fall asleep." And because it was a moment in the movie, but I just do it because I think it's hilarious, I like how it happened.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a moment I have with myself. Nobody else around, and I start quoting Doom to myself. Start quoting, let me be correct. I'm quoting Javier Bardem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm quoting just
Well,
him and it to myself for my, simple joy. But yeah, it was
I'm not
good.
faulting you for it.
It actually, it might sound crazy, but it actually made me a fan of Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing is I need something to
Um,
make me a fan of him for because I'm still not there. You know what I mean?
yeah, there's
So maybe
understandable
that's the one I'm missing. Maybe that's what I'm missing. I need to see that,
because
and then I'll finally be on the same page as everybody else, I guess.
I don't know
Because
because before Dune, what was it that he did? The only other two movies that I am 1,000% positive that he was in before Dune, which I could still be wrong. I know I'm not wrong on Interstellar, even though his part
yeah,
was so small and I don't think much about him in the movie. And the other
right.
one is The French Dispatch, Wes Anderson
Okay,
flick.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, I
Uh,
only know him in like small roles too, because Interstellar, and then he was in Lady Bird
didn't watch it. Heard it was dope.
with. Yeah, it's a good movie, but it's
Yeah.
the same thing. He's got a small role in there too. So
Okay.
he's kind of those things where I'm like, this is America's leading man now, and I have not seen him in anything and been like, I get it.
Yeah.
That's America's leading man. It's the opposite effect of like Florence Pugh. I love Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
I saw her in Midsummer and I was like, oh yeah, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. She's really good. Because I would almost call her the isn't yeah, I would say to me she's kind of like she she's the lead, the young lead of the moment,
Right.
uh like actress wise, and I get it. Like I'll see anything she's in and be like, yeah, I'm down for this. So
She's also in Dune 2.
that's right. That's
She
right.
is.
I know.
And
Those Dune movies have a great cast.
yeah, and my favorite, Leah Sado was in there as well.
Who?
Leah Sado.
Who's that?
Um, No Time to
You
Die.
don't mean Lisa Kudrow, do you?
God, don't do that to me. Lisa Kudrow. I'm gonna make this plainly and clear since there's a moment for it. I never watched Friends, and I won't,
Neither did I. It's okay.
and I won't. Yep, and I won't. Living single, way better. All day, every day. I will say
Yeah.
that all day, every day, living single over Friends. But uh, did you watch No Time to Die? The
Mm,
last James Bond movie with Daniel Craig?
mm,
Did you watch
mm.
Spectre?
I did see Spectre.
She was the woman inspector, the love interest.
Okay.
Oh, better
Okay.
yet, Death Stranding. I think
I
she's
never
in
played
Death
Death Stranding.
Stranding. I just bought it. And that's probably why I
Norman
was thinking about it.
Reedus.
Norman Reedus. A game that is described as a walking simulator,
Yeah,
but it's
that
so
almost sold
good.
me on it. I was like, I like walking.
This is my jam. Uh,
It's usually if a game has a lot of walking, it's gonna be a game for me. Honestly.
it's these adventure games that I've been lately buying when they go on sale for PlayStation. Again, PlayStation all the way, in case nobody understands that yet. Um,
I'm the same way.
but yeah, they've been going on sale. And I just like Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk
I still
2077.
haven't played, still haven't finished Ghost of Tsushima actually though. I've played it and restarted it a few times. It's such a cool
Yeah,
game. I just
it
like
is.
can't bring myself to finish it.
It,
Like,
it, it, it is one of those type of things where it's like, once you finish it, it's unfortunately done.
yeah, that's how I feel. I held out on finishing Cyberpunk for like the longest time, but I have finished it. And have restarted it and played it a few times.
I'm trying to, I'm trying to go through all the, missions right now. Uh, yeah, which, I mean, can we get into gaming?
Well, you know what?
There's some stories.
I've got a really good segue for you because um, speaking of Cyberpunk,
Segues. Yeah.
speaking of Keanu, um, we were on the topic earlier of adaptations and stuff like that, and you've mentioned this stuff before, but like the Sonic movies are, are they are they the best video game adaptation of all time?
That is
Are they the most
insane.
successful video game franchise adaptation of all time?
I think
I think
so.
they might be.
I think cause you had, and it's amazing the journey that they went from
Yeah,
having Sonic to, to almost making Sonic look like a very awful looking character
like a creature.
where the fans backlashed and got
It
it,
was
and
very
they
different.
made them do it right. Uh, Even funny enough that Sonic is in that Bad Sonic is in the Chip and Dale movie,
Yeah.
which hilarious.
I love that.
So it had those beginnings to being where it's now, where they're like, we're moving into a four. We're gonna do Sonic 4, and it's like, yeah, I think that might be the most successful
It had a streaming
game.
show, right? There was a Knuckles spin-off show.
Yeah, on Paramount, they gave
That's
Knuckles his own
crazy.
show. Yeah,
I've only seen the first one. I want to watch the other two because I the third one I was really excited.
yeah,
And I was excited for the second one too. I just haven't gotten to it. The first one came out like the perfect time because that was the thing. And I think I mentioned this on before, but like at one point Sonic was like the number one leading. The first one was like the number one leading movie in America. This came out in 2020, and it
that
like came
is,
out in February, and then everything shut down in March. So it was like
yeah.
Sonic, nothing
Sonic
but
crushing
Sonic this
everything,
year. It's like Sonic and Carrots.
man. Oh God, that's right. That was a movie.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, it is done super, super fucking fantastic. And, shout
I think
out
that's cool. And
to not, not the character that everybody knows him from, but I know him from Ben Schwartz from Amir and Jake and Amir sketches on College Humor
oh,
back in the day.
not not Jean Ralphio. That's what you were trying to do. I see.
Mm,
Yeah.
not John.
No, Ben Schwartz. Speaking of video games and just kind of like not wanting to get into video games, but like I love that he is like a he's a nerd. Like he's a video game nerd. So like it's so cool to hear him. It's hard, like, and I think that's a crucial detail for stuff like this, like adaptation wise. Just like how you kind of want to have people that care some degree about a comic book adaptation that they're portraying.
Yeah,
Actually, no, scratch that. I'm going to take a harder stance. They only do well if they do give a shit about the comic book character that they're portraying or like working on with. And I think
yep.
the same goes for video games. You know what I mean? Um, I know the Mario movie did well, but I remember when Chris Pratt was like, "Yeah, I love Mario and the Koopas," and I'm like, "This fool doesn't know a goddamn thing about Mario."
Yeah, that is always my gripe is when it's so clearly that they don't know the characters or they don't care
Yeah,
enough. And and like, that's my take on, my, I know everybody, there's people I've talked to who are fine with it, but for me, the one that I absolutely despise the most, live action Cowboy. That's my gripe with
oh,
that.
oh yeah,
Is that the whole entire, oh, that's beautiful. Is the, I remember watching one of the commercials for it, and they were like, they were bigging up the music. And they're like, yeah, we got Yoko, the music type of thing. And I'm like, that is a very
yeah.
terrible sign. Not because the music is not good
Not
or anything.
integral. Yeah,
It's, yeah, it's a very big part of it, but the way that they were hyping it up and not
yeah,
actually what they were doing, it was like, oh, they just don't care about this.
yeah,
And they're not putting the production is not putting in a good way of making this show. So this, and I knew from the jump, like, that was my biggest sign, like, this is going to be bad. This is going to be not good. And sure enough, I hate watched the whole series.
yeah. That's right. I
Um,
remember when you
yeah,
did.
really, really, really bugged me. I don't have, I'm not shitting on none of the actors who were a part of it, but the way that it was handled and the way that it was obviously like written was not
Yeah,
from a, a place of like, we really like this show. We really want to like honor and
yeah,
homage the show. And it's kind of put me in a spot where I'm realizing more now that I think we need to do more so of the, hey, this was inspired by this take
yeah,
instead of trying to do a direct adaptation. Let's be like, this was clearly, we're going to have elements of it and we're going to show that we're clearly inspired by this one thing. It's just not going to be the exact thing of it. And I think it would do a
that's
lot of people
difficult.
justice because even like trying to work on a Naruto movie, which we'll see if they do good or not. but it's one of the things where that world is so vast and there's so much things in there. You could make a story in that world, work with the writers, work with the artists, and make it, hey, what if we took an element in this world and made a story out of that
Yeah,
type of deal,
no,
which would
I
be
agree.
amazing. It could turn out to be super fantastic.
I think that goes back to like what we were talking about at the beginning, which is when you're adapting stuff like manga, anime, comic books, video games, and this is kind of what we talk about on the show in general, usually, right? It's just
Yeah.
adaptation stuff, right? I think that you have to allow yourself to kind of, do you see my cat just like
Yeah.
jump
Yeah.
back and forth? Sorry. But like
It's
you
fun.
kind of have to have someone in the room that is allowing themselves or allowing the project to have something like have an element of like weirdness or wackiness or I don't know, some sort of something that you have to be willing to kind of go the extra mile to make that adaptation work, especially if you're taking something that's beloved. And I think that like if you look at the way things got adapted in like like in the 90s and the early aughts, it was very much like, okay, we're gonna do this thing, but no one's going to watch um a bunch of people in colorful costumes go at the movies, or
Yeah.
no one's gonna watch Dragon Ball the movie live action,
Um,
right? Or no one's gonna watch like I'm trying to think of another thing. But like
the Flintstones.
people the Flint well I love the Flintstones movies, okay? But but you know it's funny they bring up the
Mm.
Flintstones because you wanna know why the Scooby Doo movies rock? The live action
Wow.
Scooby Doo movies rock? Because they went camp with it. They went to the full wackiness that you go to. Can you imagine if they tried to make like a live action Scooby Doo movie, but they took it, they were like, we're gonna make it like real and
Yeah.
realistic. You know what I mean? Like they very well could have done that. And they didn't do that, thank God.
It's
Instead they had a CGI dog and they had the best cast for an adaptation ever. And we're like, this movie's gonna be insane. And that was
it's
finally done.
funny. It's funny. Yeah, exactly. It's funny how we brought it all the way back around. Right back to the man. You see, we have an
But
appreciation for him.
yeah, no, I really
But,
do. And you know, take like I'm not saying I don't have, you know, like I don't put anyone up on a pedestal,
yeah.
especially these days. But I think
Yes.
that one thing that the man can do and has done is say, I want to adapt this thing and I want it to be as wacky as the thing
Yeah.
and or as strange or bizarre. No, I'm not gonna not put the talking raccoon in the superhero. Even though I'm sure some people were like, you can't put the talking raccoon in the superhero movie. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not paying Bradley Cooper to voice a raccoon. You're insane. And I
Bradley
think
Cooper
that,
doesn't do voices. Yep. He will.
yeah,
He will.
yeah.
He will.
Or like, yeah, I just think that I think that's where, and I can see that. And I think tying it back to the Superman trailer, looking at it and seeing, okay, you have crypto in there and crypto's not in there as like this is like, I don't know, like it's so weird for me to be like, wow, I'm not a huge Superman fan. I like Superman to a decent degree and I'm aware of a lot of like story points, mostly because I really loved the animated Justice League show, right? And that was very
Oh
Superman heavy,
yeah.
of course.
Shout out Dwayne McDuffie.
Um, yeah,
Yep.
exactly. But I think that, um, I'm not a huge crypto fan, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But seeing that dog in the movie, and I was like, this is cool. This is really cool. I love this. And then yeah, like tying it back to seeing characters like Guy Gardner and him look the way Guy Gardner has looked in comics. It's just
Yeah.
really cool to see as well too. Also, I think Nicholas Holt is going to be fantastic. I'm hoping,
Looks great.
as Lex Luthor. He looks great. I think he's a great actor.
He
Um,
is.
and I think that the bar is really low, thankfully for him, because I hate Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg's
And I hated,
take
sorry, I hated his,
Lex.
take.
Yeah, it was very, very bad. Um, for them to choose like, this is the direction we're going to go with this type of
Yeah,
character who's supposed to be something big and like, no, we're going to make it like this.
yeah,
It's again with people really not understanding the character. It's the same way,
yeah,
same reason why Kang was dope in Loki, but not
yeah,
in Ant-Man Quantumania.
yeah,
So
exactly.
lack of
God,
understanding.
you know what I haven't had to say in a long time is Kang. Um, that's
Yeah.
crazy. And you know what? I don't think we've talked on the show since,
All this mess
uh,
happened.
yes, since the huge announcement, Ben.
Man. And you know what's crazy? We can save that for next time.
I love, you know, just like the things that we talk about on the show,
Yeah,
we, on this podcast, we love a cameo, we love a teaser.
we do. We do.
We
One of
love
the
a post
things,
credit.
uh, one of the things I forgot to do, damn, I completely forgot to do it at the top of it, is talk about the one, the only, um, most important, or you could say the first family, that great, fantastic first family in the comic books. And
Making their
obviously,
first steps.
yeah, steps to it being the Bat family, obviously, because that's what it is. Is it, is there another one out there? I don't know. Is there another family with four people? Maybe.
Was
Maybe not.
who's the four people in the Bat family?
Who's the four people in the
No,
Bat
so
family?
who's the four people in the Bat family? There's like 10 of them.
There's 1,000 of them.
Yeah,
The point
you
is,
said four.
we're not talking about that family of four. Yeah, we will
Full
one
House.
day. We will one day,
Yeah.
but not any.
Maybe we're gonna wait. Let's wait for a trailer. Once a trailer drops, we'll have so much to talk about,
We
and it'll
will.
be apt. Um, so I think that's a good thing to say for that.
No.
Also, I think next time around we'll have a proper intro. It's 2025. I'm turning 30 soon. Um,
We're just putting it all out there, huh?
yeah.
Putting that out there.
So it's a new year. It's a new decade for me. And, um, yeah, I'm gonna have the best intro next time. It's going to blow everybody's minds,
All right, yeah,
including mine.
I'll let you work on that because obviously I'm not going to. I try to have zero intros
I know, and
because
that's
it
why I
is,
want to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, and you're just going to have to live with
it's just gonna happen like, damn, this motherfucker really got me.
it.
Uh, so yeah, I guess we will bring up the Doom news and everything else next time and the other stuff
Yeah,
that obviously inevitably is. It
we have
should,
plenty to talk about, and I think that was another thing too is that yeah, like it's been a minute, but there has been a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to talk about and a lot of thoughts, and you and I text back and forth here and there about it. It's not the same, you know what I
it
mean?
is, it isn't. And, now that we're here, especially at the end of this, I feel it's the most appropriate time to say it's good to be back.
Yeah,
We haven't been here in a moment. Glad to welcome everybody back. Like it's the first time in a long time.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what it is. Maybe did this belong in the beginning of the show? Who knows? Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. This is where it's at. We're
yeah,
back. Thank you for being here and sitting
yeah.
through this.
Thanks for blowing off the cobwebs with us, everybody.
Yeah, and remember, just like a once Power Ranger and one of the former Three Ninjas themselves. Today's a good day to, probably go punch a Nazi in the face.
I agree.
All right. Yeah, that'll be it until next time. Shit.
Yay.
Yay.